Deadly Grounds Coffee knows how important your coffee is to you. Every batch is roasted to perfection with a unique special method that brings out the richest, deepest, smoothest flavor you'll ever find. We're coffee freaks too, and deadly serious about our brew. Just one sip and you'll know why we say, once you go deadly, you don't go back. It's truly coffee to die for. So when you're ready to get a little deadly, get online and order yours at getdeadly.com. It's coffee so good, it's scary.
Greetings and welcome once again to another episode of the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, the only show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome. As ever, we are part of the Dorkening Podcast Network, and we are brought to you tonight by Deadly Grounds Coffee, coffee to die for. I am your host. My name is Parasite Steve, aka Steve Van Sampson, and with me tonight, even though this is an episode of The Brig, in fact, the first episode of The Brig of Season 8, holy crap.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, there he is. I actually have some buddies with me tonight. My super amazing arcade playing cohorts, 8-Bit Alchemy.
Hey, how's it going? I'm excited to be here.
Nah, I'm excited you're here. And my other guy, I'm excited that he's here. His name is Coopster Gold.
Let's get ridiculous.
Yes, let's do that. Guys, this is the first Brig that you have both been on with me, I think.
Nice.
So thanks for jumping on ship.
Well, you did pick a great guest, so.
Oh, well, in many ways he picked us, which we're very thankful for. This week, for our first interview of Season 8, locked down there in that void of infinite slime and dark science we call the Brig, we have a very amazing man. He's a video game designer and an artist behind such legendary retro arcades as Rampage, Arch Rivals, and XENOPHOBE. He's also the co-founder and CEO of the company Game Refuge, and in 2019, he was inducted into the International Video Game Hall of Fame. Why, it's none other than Brian F. Colin. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Hello up there. I'm really pleased to be here, but the slave girls you've got serving us beer, she's top notch. But I've never ever been interviewed under such conditions.
Well, I take that as a compliment, and I have to say, if you're feeling peckish, there are some untested Scum Labs mega vitamins in the top drawer of the end table down there. No idea what the side effects might be though, so it's your call.
Yeah, take it your own risk.
Thanks for doing your research.
That's what we do. So welcome to the show, Brian. We're happy to have you.
Glad to be here.
Really legendary games that you've created over the course of the years, and I know that you've created so many more than we even know about. I've read over 90 games in total that you said you've had a hand in or have physically developed, and that's just amazing. What an incredible amount of video games.
It's been an incredible way to make a living, put food on the table. It's been ridiculously fun. It doesn't make it not hard work, but it's been a joy. I've been blessed.
I can imagine. That seems like it would just be a dream come true, and you've really created some timeless classics that are near and dear to the hearts of a lot of different folks out there. So we're
right up front, it wasn't just me ever.
Sure.
It was always a team. Sometimes as few as like 2-3 guys. Sometimes as many as 40. But it's always a matter of everybody pulling together and doing what needs to be done. Mutual respect, confrontation. Game design is probably designed differently by anybody who calls themselves a designer, but it was always great, and you couldn't do it alone.
Right.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. And I mean, that's great. Everybody deserves, their credit. for sure. But we have you on tonight, and we're super happy about that.
I'm glad we take all the credit. I'm just pointing out that,
well, especially down in the Brig, you don't have a whole lot else going for you.
Yeah,
like,
just some slave girls and some questionable vitamin snacks. I mean,
yeah,
geez.
yeah, slimy vitamins.
So, like, the thing about your games, Brian, and I will admit that I didn't know that you designed all of these, like, at the time, certainly, but looking at, like, just the ones that I already mentioned, like XENOPHOBE, Arch Rivals, Rampage, like, just taking those three, these are games that absolutely have a stamp. And knowing that they were all designed or co-designed, partly designed by the same man, is just fascinating to me. So this is what I think. When I look at these games, I think that there are two distinct aspects that I feel that really, really stand out. First is the art style, which is, while, you know, on the cartoony side, always has a very strong sense of dark comedy. That seems to be your thing, one of your things.
Yeah, I'm glad you called that. That's one of the things. I'm interested to hear what the second thing is. But yeah, obviously, I did all the art for these games. So in a lot of the Bally Midway games, the early arcade games, and so I was hired initially as an animator before I became a designer, kind of out of self-defense. But so the art is. I'm glad you saw it that way. I don't know as I would call it dark comedy, because I would call it maybe a little sarcastic, and certainly for my age, Mad Magazine, you know.
Oh yeah,
going back to to my youth. But yeah, that's it. I had a ball doing the art, and I always never thought of myself as an artist. I always drew as a cartoonist to make myself smile, and the fact that it made other people smile just made it all perfect.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I mean, I guess the reason I say dark is because, like, you know, things in Rampage, when, you know, the monsters are, you know, ripping ladies out of windows and eating them, and then, like, in General Chaos, there's a lot of, like, you know, dark, you know, violence in that game.
Comedy in like just over the top cartoon violence.
Right,
kind of
right.
way.
And again, that's the key word. Because for me, again, at my age, Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny,
Yes.
you know, the anvil dropping on the coyote's head.
Yeah.
Everybody understood that you didn't have to, you know, write that as a warning label on a anvil. You know,
Cartoon character shooting another character in the face, blowing their face in. It's done in a comedic way. Like when I was a kid, seeing that, it never gave me any kind of concern. It's just like, oh, it's funny. Like
it is, and I mean that was my sense of humor growing up. I never. Actually, I thought of Rampage as an ecological movie, if nothing else. Let's bring down the big cities, you know, and the fact that the monsters were people that had the bad side effects from whatever's pills you put in this slime down here.
Scum labs.
That was, and I'm surprised almost no one ever mentions that anymore. But back then it was like, you know, this is 1984 when I'm working on this. It's like, okay, the ecological movement. This is. You know, I'm naming this bad company Scum Labs that, you know, turn these people into monsters. And when we had to fight to get this game done, because management said no. I mean, I brought up, you know, you can't have monsters eating. It's like, they're the victims. They're not monsters. They didn't have to be turned into these things. Right. And, you know, it was a tough sell, but we managed to get it done. I'm sorry, I digress. I'm going to do that.
No, digress.
Wow, welcome to do it.
So they gave you pushback in the era of, like, literally Godzilla, you know, came out with a movie that year. You know, we had resurgence of King Kong, like all the sort of monsters and all that. They're like, no, we don't think this is going to resonate with the public. That's so weird.
Right.
Well, a lot about you got to remember too, which no one really thinks about these days, is back then arcades were the bad guy. People in suburban towns around Chicagoland did not want an arcade moving into their town to bring all of the ruffians and biker. Who knows what they thought it was going to bring in.
Right.
The kids playing in them knew it was just kids. And we're all looking over each other's shoulders. And yes, maybe some of them smoked cigarettes, you know. But,
yes.
Management, Bally Midway was a pinball company. And I got into their development team 1 year after they had created it. And they were still trying to figure stuff out. And that was the best time at all to fall into it.
Oh, I bet.
This alone,
I bet.
We did what we wanted to do.
You're writing the rule book.
Kids looking at each other going, can we do this? Who's going to sell this? You know,
Yeah.
And when I did quite a few games before Rampage, and they were successful, and when we knew we had stumbled onto this brilliant idea that was basically came out of the fact that they told me I couldn't do something with the hardware that I wanted to do. I figured out how to do it. And then the light went off and we said, oh, the four of us ran, first line of the game design document was the psychology of Rampage, or why this is next year's #1 game. Went to my boss. He said no. So I went over his head. Head of engineering loved it. He laughed and he's like, so we can do it? No. What do you mean? You're the monster. You can't eat people. You can't eat police. You can't eat the army. It's like, no, went top 3 guys in the company. Went up there, went over the end, went over his head. Top 3 guys. No.
Damn.
Jeff Nauman, the programmer on that, I'd worked with him on a couple games before. I basically said, hey, this thing that I came up with, can we do this? And he's like, let's try it. So we started on the game anyway. And just by pure accident, 3 weeks later, had nothing to do with us, the top 3 guys were fired by bad.
That's awesome.
That's
the new guy sent
insane.
out a memo. No one worry about this. Your jobs are all safe. This is just an upper management change.
We just simply heard they turned down a game where you play as monsters and eat the army, and we're like, that's crazy. You can't say no to that.
He came in from retail. He came in from Montgomery Wards, if you remember.
Okay. All right.
And he basically sent the memo around, everybody's job is safe. I start on Monday. I've got an open door policy.
No way.
You can guess who was sitting with his back to the new president's door on his very first day when he walked in at 9 a.m. I pitched him the game. He loved it. And the rest, they say, is history.
There you go.
Wow.
That was incredible.
Amazing.
It was the Wild West back then. It was not, 3 guys did Rampage.
Wow.
The team, all the teams were small and everybody was very peer-to-peer. We would all walk over to the other guy's office or cubicle and comment every day. We'd all play everybody else's stuff. And I found out later that wasn't really the norm in a lot of the game companies.
That sounds so collaborative. That's awesome.
It was a wonderful time. And it was a great time to learn to become a game creator. Because, when I was a kid, that was Pong. That was it. On a Magnavox Odyssey, where you had to put a colored sheet over the screen to get the tennis field to look green.
Right.
So all right, I'm rambling again. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So let's stay on Rampage. The characters in this game are so endearing, and so this was your big game, right? Like you're saying, you came up with the idea, you came up with this incredibly unique gameplay and all this stuff, and then you're creating all of the artwork. So I assume you were the head character designer.
Yeah, no, it was there weren't character designers. I was an animator.
Okay,
I did all the art for a lot of games, but some of the games, they I don't know how much you want to hear about this stuff, but
all of it.
There were like 3 animators at the time. There were half a dozen, 7, 8 programmers working on different projects. Animators got to work on everything. Some games it'd be all 3 of us working on. One guy's working on the cars. I'm working on the special effects. Somebody else is doing, the backgrounds. Other times, it's like, okay, hey, we can't. This hardware doesn't scale, but if we can do this, we can fake it. Or this hardware doesn't scroll. So how about if we try this? So it was very creative. Challenges was mostly everything. But yes, in Rampage and some of the games before, I was known for the character art.
Okay.
And in the case of Rampage, that was all me just because I threw myself into it 100%.
Right.
I had to fight for it to get it done and started. And the programmer was just as passionate. Jeff Nauman was great at tuning a game. And like I say, the rest of the team comes in and said, hey, if you jump on a building, that should do damage. Good idea. Blah, blah, blah. Jeff, hey, here's what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the design aspect was part of the creative challenge. And you asked about the characters, and I'm off on another ramble. So I will pause now to give you a chance to edit.
No, it's all great.
It's all good.
So George, Lizzie, and
Freeform.
Ralph are the characters, and it makes me think that you must have been a big monster fan at the time. Were you a Godzilla guy, Godzilla King Kong guy?
Everybody thinks that. In fact, one of the I was a filmmaker before I fell into the industry. I was an animator.
Oh, cool.
I won some international awards for an animated film.
In the 70s, I saw that. Yeah,
and that's how Bally hired me. They saw that. I mean, when I first applied for the job, I thought I was going in to be a pinball backglass artist, and they're like, "No, we want you to do animation for video games. We've got a development company now." And I'm like, "Pac-Man, really? You need somebody to do that?
How much art do you need for that?"
And I wasn't even. I did not particularly want the job, except I did want to eat. So I took it with some reservation, and I didn't think I was going to like it, and I was so wrong. After the first day working on a game like Discs of Tron, it blew me away. I had this full 3D effect, and the speakers coming from behind you, and just I was blown away, and I knew I'd fallen into the right place.
It was amazing that you worked on Discs of Tron. I only got to recently, in the last few years, there's in our area they have these free play arcades where you pay $15 to go in and everything's on free play, and they actually have the environmental cabinet for Discs of Tron, and that is the most arresting, beautiful freaking cabinet I've ever played. As soon as I stepped in, I'm like, man, how have I never heard of this game? It's just so immersive, and to see that you did,
I got to work on. That's what I said.
It blew my mind to see that you had worked on that. I was like, that's crazy. That's one of my most memorable recent arcade game experiences was Discs of Tron, and it's a cool game. It plays really unique, but the art is so striking. It's awesome. Yeah, it really is.
Well, and the programmer on that, a guy named Bob Dinnerman, was brilliant. It was supposed to come out in the original Tron game, and he said, "No, I want better animation. I want," and that's why I got hired. Basically, I want this to be perfect. It's going to be, even if you, and they let him. And he was the best guy to start working for because he knew exactly what he wanted from me. But he let me say, "Okay, you're having the guy fall off the disc when he reaches the edge. How does the player know what the edge is? How about if we you pause him for a second and we tip him and he waves his arms a little bit to give the player the chance to go back." And those little design elements right from the start, and a programmer who was willing to take them on it for what they were, made my job wonderful from the start.
I have to ask too, we're talking so much about your artistic contributions to video games, and I think one of the things that we take for granted is the tool set that you had available to you at the time to do art for games like this, because now, there's so many commonplace tools for what people can do to produce video game art or pixel art or whatever, but what kinds of things were you working with?
When I first started, some technical guy downstairs built this giant 4-foot steel thing with thumb wheels. I don't know if you're old enough to remember what a thumb wheel was, but it was about a half-inch serrated blade that you had to push up one time with your thumb for every one of the bits that you wanted to change. So 16 colors is RGB through 0 through 16 or 0 through, whatever, 1 through 8, and then ABCD and RGB, and then just to move the color around. And eventually we got these really great tools that they built downstairs based on feedback from us that were 2 feet long lap desk made out of plywood, which had pinball buttons all over it. And they, for a trackball, which I'd never seen one before, I didn't even know they existed, or if they did back then, made out of a bowling ball from a Bally, the bowlers that they used to have.
Like a skee ball or something.
That was your trackball. It was so great to work with. And we were working on the hardware. So we didn't work on computers. We worked, they were a computer of sorts, but we were working on the game hardware.
It wasn't a workstation where you upload something to a game later. It was just right in the actual thing.
We had workstations. They were HPs, and the hard drive, which probably didn't hold as much as a JPEG holds now.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started working, I worked with 7-inch floppies. Then they went to 5-inch. Oh boy! My first hard drive was as big as a dishwasher. I mean, and that's what held the stuff. But I actually created it on the monitors, on the CRTs. It was a wild time, and it was wonderful. And
were you creating artwork like pixel by pixel? Is that how it worked?
But it doesn't look anything like everybody says pixels by pixels looks like now.
Okay.
CRTs, the beauty and the challenge of working with a CRT is a red pixel that is, FFF or whatever that'd be white, sorry. But anyway, looks different depending on the pixel above it, below it, beside it. The blend of colors. And when I was doing characters, the detail of the face could be changed, and the shape and the roundness, everything blurred just slightly, that you could make colors that weren't really there out of the colors. I know
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It was very strange back then, and it was.
That's like an amazing way, to hear that from you, because it kind of demystifies. I see so many people in modern games that are made, to look retro. They'll have, you'll notice the CRT filter. Right, I'm sure you've seen that, where like you can go into the options, you can turn on a CRT filter, and a lot of games are trying to go for that look because it's more painterly, like the way that CRT monitors would blend and blur pixel art, and you can see certain art where a single red pixel was enough to create like a red aura in a character's eyeball or something. And when you have modern displays that just give you the exact perfect pixelation, you're not actually seeing it how the artist created it. So that's super cool to hear, like that was your process. That's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It was a time.
I bet.
I've heard people say that about like the Final Fantasy games that were on like the Super Nintendo and stuff, like Final Fantasy VI. I've heard people say that the portraits look so bad now because they're all just these perfect pixels, and if you compare it to the CRT look, it's like, wow, look at all these extra colors we were getting. It almost looks like more like a painting, and it's a funny phenomenon that we've kind of come back around. We're like, no, it actually looks better with the medium that it was intended for. Like, isn't that weird?
Right. Yeah, we're optimizing something that wasn't technically broken.
Intended.
It was. Yeah. It wasn't. Right.
Exactly.
And again, it's not that we wouldn't have used more if we had more, but these were machines that it was a manufacturer. It wasn't a publisher. Yeah. There are guys down on the line that are going to get laid off if we don't get this game done on time. I go lunch with them, so I got to make sure the game's done.
Right.
We would. I mean, there was an anecdotal story. I don't know if it's true or not, but I was told when I got hired that because the head of the department was a programmer, had been a pinball programmer, I guess, but he told all the programmers that we have 64 colors, 4 palettes of 16 colors each, but only 16 can be used in a sprite. But don't tell the artists that we have 4 palettes, because who needs more than 16 colors? That was
right. They're going to use more colors if they know we have them.
I always enjoy sharing that. So,
boy,
like George, Lizzie, and Ralph.
George, Lizzie, and Ralph.
Give us any more art space.
So
and everybody, and we just started out. See how off track I get. This started out you asking me about George, Lizzie, and Ralph, and I was a Harryhausen fan.
Yes.
So George was the right shape, right size for a little smaller King Kong, maybe a bigger Mighty Joe Young.
Nice.
And Lizzie was not King Kong. She was not
Godzilla.
King Kong. I mean, she was not Godzilla. Godzilla towered over buildings. Lizzie was the Ymir from 20 million miles to Earth.
Brian, can you see the poster?
Yes. And then Ralph, we didn't have enough art for a third guy, and I insisted that we do the first 3-player game. We didn't have enough art. But as I mentioned, we had 4 palettes. Ralph is George. All I had to do was an extra head, and we squeezed in so we could get him into the game.
I don't think I've ever noticed that.
That's how micro efficient we had to be, and that was part
fantastic.
of the fun of doing it. The creative
so
challenge was always the best part for me.
It's amazing. So knowing that Lizzie is the Ymir instead of Godzilla is like the most amazing thing. That may be the best tidbit I've ever learned doing this show for 7 friggin' years. I'm a huge Harryhausen fan. I do have a bunch of Harryhausen stuff behind me. And that is so freaking cool, Brian. I love that. So I've always wondered this. Now, Ralph the Wolf was always my favorite for some reason. I think it was because it was so out of left field. Like I wasn't, to me, it felt like King Kong and Godzilla. I think a lot of people assume that. And then it's like, oh, and a giant werewolf. Why? He was my favorite. And I just, why?
Okay.
Why a wolf?
You got part of the explanation right there. I wanted to
could reuse the body.
They wouldn't give us any more actual sprites. So we had to use one of the 2 characters. And I thought, well, a lizard in a different color is still going to look like a lizard. It's going to have a tail. I can't just change the head. Lots of animals have fur. And the programmer, Jeff's like, make it a dog. And it's like, why? And he's like, make it a dog and we can call him Ralph. And it's like, okay, perfect. So that
you Muppet fans, did you like Ralph the dog?
Yes.
We love Ralph the dog.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. Absolutely awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It took you a little while to get around to it, but I'm glad we got there. I'm glad
it was a good walk.
I'm glad we got.
A good walk.
It was an excellent walk.
Well, there's some good technical stuff in there for the really truly hardcore that needed to know. There were 16 colors.
That's our listener base.
No, I like that stuff so much. And honestly, that's the kind of detail that's impossible to find out there without talking to somebody like you who's been there. Because I think people do just think it's the less interesting stuff, but it's like I don't know. That's like I'm very curious on that. So
I can see you asking about the music too. All of that. So
yeah, for sure. We can get there, but I don't want to derail us now. I mean. Cooper, I don't know if you've got any questions. Open it up to you.
I mean,
who are you talking to?
Me.
Oh,
Justin Cooper.
Ask about what you guys do, but all right.
I mean, my question is not about Rampage, so I don't know if we're there yet. Do you guys want me to move on with mine?
Sure.
Or you still have?
Sure.
Okay. My question is, since you left Williams Bally Midway from the game development studio Game Refuge with Jeff Nauman in '92, a company that would go on to release 45 different video games, starting with the well-known General Chaos, which we all love, from 1993 on the Genesis, and I was a Genesis guy. Can you tell us a bit about General Chaos and how you made it stand out so much against the real-time strategy games of that era?
I was old enough that when I played war games, real-time strategy, war games that were, we're talking like from Avalon Hill, where there were 3,000 little cardboard pieces that you had to tear up or break loose and then arrange them all. It took 5 hours to set up and 7 hours to play before you. One of the first things when I fell into the industry, one of the first games I did was I was looking at some files of games that had been considered, and someone had come up with something called Ant Raid. And I said, what is this? And it was just a paragraph, and it said, each player controls a hive of ants, and they're fighting over food in a junkyard. And I'm like, brilliant. That is real-time strategy. And I created a character. They hired a programmer to do it. The programmer left about 3/4 of the way through. It never got released, but it was a great little concept, and it never went away. Because as a war gamer, I always wanted the computer, which I knew nothing about, because as far as I knew, they were cards that you carried to the main computer at the college, and I didn't want any of that.
That's how our dad programmed stuff. Yeah.
So but the computer could do the dirty work, and I could just get right to the battle. And I did that. Well, Arch Rivals, and we will circle back around to you. I'm going to circle. Arch Rivals, I wanted to do Ant Raid again, and I kept saying to the different people I worked with, let's do a game where you control multiple characters. The tank game Sarge, it was one little guy who ran between a tank and a helicopter, which was kind of the same thing. We did Rampage, we did other stuff, but Jeff and I were talking after Rampage, and a couple of years later, he comes in and throws an airline barf bag down on my desk and goes, I've got it. You want to control multiple characters? Every stupid basketball game out there is just programmer arbitrary. We can do real basketball strategies. You guys just need 2 players. They can call for a pass. They can do this. They can run a pick and roll. And I'm like, Jeff, hold on. You're 6'3". I'm 5'8".
You're going to have a heart attack, Jeff. Just calm down.
No, and I'm 5'8". I agree completely. We got to do this. But most of our video game players out there are not top athletes. Every basketball player in the world is going to love this.
Right.
Because it's real basketball strategies, and that's never been done before. But we need something. We need to let you do personal fouls. I need to punch the guy in the face and steal the ball. I need to pull his pants down. So now the sequel to Arch Rivals was Pigskin, which was, we wanted to do a football Arch Rivals. Williams said no. They had just bought out Bally. But they kept Jeff and I. And they said no. So we said, okay, we'll call it rugby, and we're going to give them battle axes and let them set people on fire and everything else. So Pigskin, we were controlling 6 guys. And then it was after Pigskin, I got asked to move to California and join EA. And I had an acre here in Chicagoland. It's like, you're not going to be able to pay me to get an acre in Silicon Valley. Remote wasn't a thing back then. So they finally, after about 9 months, said, what if we just gave you the money to start your own company? And then we can do business with you. And I'm like, what?
EA said that?
Okay, yes.
Wow.
I mean,
holy shit.
And then we went out there and
they were cool
General
ones.
Chaos. And they loved the idea.
Yeah.
And it went on to be like one of their highest earning intellectual properties that year. It was magical.
Wow.
Like I said, I've been very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking up a lot of stuff because I never had General Chaos growing up, but my God, it's like there are so many people out there that love that game, still play that game, still break it out as like, a multiplayer thing to do with their friends over. And I'm like, dude, that's so cool. Like, I really want to track down a copy of it now.
You got to look at the comments too. It's like a lot of these things are.
Yes.
I rented this with my dad and we played, or I did this at a sleepover where we ate pizza and drank Mountain Dew all night and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, I remember that. Like that was
the days.
I'm
thing to
so
do.
glad you're telling me that. Rampage is what I'm known for in most of the arcade games. But I get more email from General Chaos fans than any game I've ever done.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And, which is, I don't know, is it? Well, at some point, I'm going to plug the fact that I'm 3/4 of the way through the sequel.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Ooh.
Yeah. No, we have a few bullet points for that.
I was unaware.
I'm glad I surprised you. We can talk about that at some point. But yeah, let's keep talking about what you guys want to talk about.
I was just going to say, like, I saw, tons of comments, and it was like on Arch Rivals too. Arch Rivals and General Chaos, and I was, checking videos out today. And it's, all of what Coop was saying. It's like their favorite game growing up. They're just, so happy to be seeing it again. And it's really cool how, I think it must be incredibly cool how many, childhoods your work has touched and like helped to shape. And, back to Rampage for a second. Personally, this was a game that I had to play at every arcade that I saw it at for years when I was a kid. I mean, I am a big Monster fan. I have always been a big Monster fan. This was the only game that let you play as the big monsters, and it had that dark sense of humor that I loved so much. I thought it was so funny, ripping people out of the building and stuff. And like you said, Brian, it wasn't like real violence. It's so cartoonish that it doesn't need
it's so separated from reality that you're not like sweating it, like whatever.
Right. But also,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I was just going to say, like, that sort of leads me to, I started off by saying there are 2 things about your games that I really feel like have, very specific stamps. The first being the comedy aspect. And the second, I really think that all of the games that I know of yours have this very, like, it seems like you are going out of your way to really create something unique. The gameplay itself, not just the tone, not just the way it looked, but the gameplay itself. So obviously we're talking about Rampage. I mean, no game plays like Rampage except for the sequels. No game plays like that. It's so unique in the world of arcade games at the time,
Singular.
but also in the world of games since. But just let's go with games at the time. There's no game like that. You came up with this idea of what this completely different type of game could be like. And you didn't stop there. Like Arch Rivals was so different for a basketball game, as we said. And then honestly, I think XENOPHOBE, I also want to mention as a game that I legitimately really loved as a kid.
Love that game.
And it was another
Very
3-player game. Very innovative. It was a 3-player game, and it was weird because, just kind of like when you would start Rampage, you had, if you chose George, it would show George's face on the top, in between levels, but they were like placeholders for the middle and placeholder for the bottom, because that's where the characters went. Well, XENOPHOBE was the same way, but to the next level, because the screen was separated into thirds. And if you were only playing as one person, only 1/3 of the screen was actually the game, and the rest of it was like press start. So different looking. And not only that, but like you essentially in that game, you start in the middle of a very long horizontal corridor, and you're expected to either go left or right. It's up to you. And you kill aliens that are all over the place, which is just fun. And, I think everybody loved the movie Alien at the time. And you saw a lot of like xenomorph sort of stuff that people were, riffing on.
Yeah.
And so
a lot of
this did feel like, it was riffing on that. But the gameplay itself, you can walk left or right, and all of these rooms, they're just screen-sized rooms that are linked, and they're like, you can go in between them over and over. So if you go 2 screens over, and then you're like, oh, I actually want to go to the right of where I started. Okay, well, you got to walk right 2 screens to get to where you started, and then you can go right from there. And it's all this pervasive sort of a level. And I still can't think of one other game that plays like that. So I just think that the games that you gave us, Brian, are like just so incredibly unique. And I think that that's extra special because it's in an industry that is, just like the movie making industry, everybody copies everybody. Everybody's trying to see what works and how can we riff on that? And like, clearly that's what NBA Jam did with Arch Rivals. So You've been riffed on, but you weren't resting on your laurels creatively and riffing on other things. You were like coming up.
Well, I did do Rampage World Tour as well, so I did finally do a sequel.
Finally, yes.
But no, and the joy of being able to create art was great. The joy of being able to come up with design is great. The thing that sparked me always was the creative challenge of not necessarily the art, or although I applied myself everywhere, but just the creative challenge. Rampage came about because they said I couldn't do background animation, but I had figured out how we could fake scrolling in Sarge just because I wanted our track sequence to look a little better, and we could fake it on hardware that didn't scroll. Then in Rampage, when they're saying, yeah, you can't do anything, you can't do what you want to do, big animations in the back, all you can do is move a rectangle. And I turned to Sharon and I said, okay. So I knew I could scroll a section of the screen. That's a big rectangle is a building.
Scroll it down.
We knew it's like, oh, this, and what knocks down buildings. So that moment, everybody in the room, we knew we had the next year's #1 game.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying is, so the buildings themselves were the background elements that you were told you couldn't move, but in the game, for those who don't remember,
I figured out scrolling previously. So then when we got around to XENOPHOBE, they asked for another 3-player game, and I had just seen Aliens, obviously, and of course this was going to be a parody. I got to create my own monsters. And I had done a Dungeons and Dragons game called Zwackery a few years before, in which things that you found you would use later. So in addition to just firing at aliens, you could find the disc and reset the timer, or you could use the elevators by pushing buttons up and down, and everything you found you could use somewhere else, mostly. Unfortunate, and that is why that horizontal hardware doesn't scroll. It's all fake scrolling again.
That smoke and mirrors to work within limitation.
Explore the entire ship by going different directions. Unfortunately, and I tell this to everybody that loves XENOPHOBE, the arcade game. If you ever get a copy, look at the ROMs, and you'll see about 25% of the images in the ROMs aren't in the game. Because Management had its doubts about it. There was a brand new programmer working on it that I was working with that had never done a game before, and it was coming along really great. So they wanted to put it out on test early, and it did very well. So we're like, great, okay, we'll have this done in another 2 months. And they're like, no, we're releasing it now.
Oh,
What?
no, bullshit.
What?
No,
That's
no,
the first
no.
time ever had anything like that happened to me. So actually, if you look at the ROMs, you will see spacesuits that you were supposed to be wearing on the top of the moon surface or the planet surface, or you would have choked to death. But none of that got in because the game went out 2 months
They're like,
early.
cut, print, perfect. Just
And
fire it away.
Rampage earned more money than, I'm sorry, not Rampage. XENOPHOBE earned more money than Rampage.
Wow.
When it came out a year later,
Wow.
initially, but the earnings fell off like a normal video game does. Rampage has always done pretty well, but the earnings fell off just because all of those little objects that you picked up, you couldn't use them elsewhere. Not all of them, but a lot of them, you couldn't use them elsewhere. They were just objects to pick up and get points rather than the seeds that you picked up. There was another section of the ship where you were supposed to be allowed to plant the seeds and grow food to get more health.
Oh my God, no way.
No kidding.
So
that's so cool.
XENOPHOBE has got that whole missing element that while I
Damn.
still love the game and I love that cabinet, that dedicated cabinet was so
Oh yeah. It's
I
so
gotta say
different,
too,
yeah.
like the way that the XENOPHOBE like screen real estate is kind of set out. When you play that game one player, you severely want to find a second and a third player because it feels like I'm only playing a third of the game here. Like I gotta fill this screen out.
That was by design because remember the other unique thing about the arcade market and designing arcade games that no one ever since has had to worry about was I've got two customers. I've got the guy who's going to buy the machine for $4,000 back then or whatever it was, who wants players off in 35, 40 seconds, 90 seconds at the most. And I got the player who's spending his quarter and he wants to live forever. And I got to make them both happy.
Right, right.
And so
Rock in
things
a hard
that we
place.
did in Rampage, things that the split screen stuff that made you want to pull somebody over and say, play this with me. Things that we did in Arch Rivals. Arch Rivals, when the period ended and went to 0, did the game stop? No. Because we let them keep playing because no one's looking at the scoreboard anyway. We let them keep playing until the basket of somebody shot at the basket and it went right, shot the ball at the basket. And right as it was about to go in or not, then we stopped it. To get the player to go, I got to put in another quarter to see
Son
if
of a
this is going
bitch!
in or not.
Damn.
Yes.
Devious.
Things like that
Devious.
make a game a hit game. And Arch Rivals, I think I mentioned, Williams bought Bally Midway when Jeff and I were halfway through Arch Rivals. And Jeff and I were the only video game designers they kept. A few months later, we finished Arch Rivals. It did very well. I found out a couple of years back, the sales for Arch Rivals single-handedly paid for the Bally Midway buyout by Williams.
Wow.
No way.
Yes, which is
You're Oppenheimer.
it felt very good. I heard that rumored at the time, but I had it confirmed a couple of years ago. So it was a crazy time. It was a crazy time.
Wow.
It really was.
So since we got the Rampage movie, do you think there's room for a XENOPHOBE movie?
It's aliens.
It's the opposite way.
Well,
Movie informed.
Warner had bought Midway finally because Williams Bally Midway finally changed their name to Midway, and then Warner bought them. But I don't know who owns Warner now, but they own the rights to all that stuff, so they could certainly do it if they wanted to.
It might be Netflix actually if
we'll see.
That's
if
what
that
I've been
goes
hearing,
through.
yeah.
TBD. It's an ellipses. That's who owns them right now.
So we'll see The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson playing a XENOPHOBE. You know,
I'd love to see all those character names were horrible puns too. Where there were like 9 different characters you could choose from, and every Mr.
Dr. Quack or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know, it was terrible. Dr. Quack.
Dr. Quack.
So,
What did you think of the Rampage movie?
Yeah.
By the way, Brian?
I liked it. I did.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be a dog the second I heard about it. I told Warner, it's like, hey, I'm the creator. I did this. I did World Tour. I've got a lot of information. Don't call us. We'll call you. They were very polite. And then I saw The Rock attached, and I thought, okay, maybe this has a chance. And then someone from casting in Chicago called me and said, "Hey, we know who you are. You want to be an extra?" Doesn't get any better than that. So I'm running around Chicago for, and then the
Hottest day of the year
pulled me over one afternoon and says, "Okay, I heard you're the game designer. Can we shoot a cameo? So run away from the Sears Tower all afternoon like it's coming down on your head." And then I get a call from the producer who said, "I've been wanting to talk to you for years. How would you, and I've been advised not to because you're not officially anything other, you don't own anything about it. So, but they can't stop me now because you're an extra. You work for me. You want to come down to the studio and meet everybody?" And during the last week of shooting, everybody was great. It was wonderful. The Rock is honestly the nicest guy you will ever meet.
That's awesome.
Was tremendous. They were all great. And then I got to go to the, premiere and look up and tell them, sitting there with my wife, "Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes." And then at the after party, the first thing the producer says, "I'm sorry, Warner came in 3 weeks ago and you ended up on the cutting room floor." But they were great. They were great. They were all fantastic to me. So, now that I've circled around again, let me pause so you can edit this out. Okay, circled around again. The answer to your question is I liked it because they kept the humanity through George. I was really afraid it was going to become just another kaiju movie.
Right.
And they kept the humanity in George because in the game, they were people that were turned into monsters.
Right.
Yeah.
And George and the relationship he had with The Rock and everything, that kept the humanity in it for me.
I'm with you.
Kept the humor in it for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was literally at the premiere, and I don't know if you really remember Rampage. There were quite a few little bits and secrets and stuff you could do in a lot of my games, but if you grabbed the girl in the red dress in Rampage and you were George, no one would shoot at you for as long as you held on to it.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
And then at the end of the movie, I'm watching the lead villain, the actress. She gets thrown up into the air, and she's coming down to George's open mouth. And I practically stood up, except my wife grabbed my shoulder, and I'm like, "She's wearing a red dress!" It was a fun experience. I felt like a 10-year-old kid that whole year. It was great.
Heck yeah.
Wow. So they honored your Easter egg. That's so crazy.
Or at the very least, was like, no, the girl in the game wears a red dress. We're definitely going to do that. That's so fun. I agree. I think that the relationship between The Rock and George is like pretty awesome.
They did a good job with that for sure. Unexpected.
I love the whole beginning, honestly. When I found out that they were making the movie, I was just like you, Brian. I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to worry about it. I don't think it's going to be anything great. These things usually aren't." And then, but of course I'm a huge fan of the game. So and big monsters. So I'm like, "Oh no, I got to see it." And like that whole opening part, with him at the zoo was very good, I thought. And, it's funny because I was initially bummed that they weren't going to be people that got mutated because
I knew going into it, it was going to be as silly as the game. The game is all about,
and that's the thing.
Laugh out loud.
And that's the thing. And I mean, I don't know how much of this you saw at the time, Brian. I don't know how plugged in you are to the community, but people were really, really protective of this game that you made. Like when that was coming out, when that movie was coming out, people were like seriously protective of it. And they were like, "This isn't right. This isn't right. Screw this movie. This sucks." That must like make you feel good too, because these people really give a shit about this game. They really give a shit. And like I said, man, like I played it every single time. Now, you've done a lot of your games have been ported to a lot of different other systems too. Yes. So did you have anything to do with any of the ports at all, or nothing at all?
No, because while I was at Bally Midway making the arcade versions, I was always working on 3 games at once.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
I'm working on this game. I'm finishing it up. I'm starting another game. I'm helping out on this game over here. So, and Bally was really nice. I've got a copy of every port ever made of any of my games from that era. They would always send me one. You
have all those Atari Lynx cartridges, Brian? You have all the Atari Lynx, like the portable Atari? They sent you those even?
I'd have to look in the box. They pretty much sent me everything.
They probably did.
I had the arcade games in my basement, so
Yeah.
I
Heck
never
yeah.
really knew. I never really played any. Most of them are still unopened in the box.
So cool though.
I would check out the art on the cover and go, "Oh, that's really cool. That's a magazine artist," you know, or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
That was the extent of involvement I had on the home side was zero.
So I remember the Nintendo version of Rampage coming out, and I owned it, and one of my friends owned it, and I thought that the cover art was really cool. But I was also, even at the time, I was protective of it because I loved your artwork so much. And I was like, no, the characters look wrong. And I always thought it was weird that Lizzie on the cover of the NES is just a giant chameleon. Does anybody notice that? Like, it's so strange. Like, I don't know why they did that, but there was one day, I'll tell you this anecdote real quick. A friend of mine and I, just one like lazy Saturday or something, we decided for the NES, we're going to beat Rampage. We're going to do it. We are going to do it.
Oh,
and this
God.
is a long ass game, but we don't have to keep pumping in quarters. So we're like, no, the only thing standing in our way is us. We can do this. We can do this. So we spent, I shit you not, we must have spent like 5 hours playing this game because it is like kind of a slow game. And the way the NES one works, you go through the 50 states. There's a series of levels, and it's like, that's, Illinois. And then you move on, and next it's Oklahoma and whatever.
As long as you start in Peoria.
That's right.
Yep.
That's all.
But
that
you
matters.
Started in Peoria because as a filmmaker, before I became a game designer, filmmakers back in the 40s and 50s, that was the phrase that they would say in Hollywood is, "Will it play in Peoria?"
Okay.
So I had to start in Peoria.
That's
It was
all.
also the birthplace of Richard Pryor. So
There you go.
Well,
There you go.
I didn't consider that, but
Well,
But-
the
well,
Fair.
maybe on your next international gangbusters hit game, you can.
I remember the first and last state of the NES game was California. They make you do California twice. And by the time, let me tell you, after 50 states of Rampage, we were really like, it was hurting by the end. It was like some serious sweats going, and we were like, oh, can we do it? And then they make you play California a second time, and we did it. We did it. We beat that game, and we were so proud of ourselves.
and did you hate me because there was no big blow up scene at the end?
No ending.
There was like no
I
good
will
ending.
tell you, this is the absolute truth. The original game had 768 different levels.
Yeah.
Wow.
in the arcade. And Jeff Nauman, to his credit, made everyone different. I mean, even though the art pretty much looks the same, the buildings got bigger and taller, and that's about it. And we did 128 different cities and 768 levels because we're pretty sure, clever people that we were, nobody's ever going to get to the end, but we wanted to make enough levels because you could buy in. That was part of the big money-making thing in Rampage was we didn't kill you. You crawled off the screen naked, and if you put in another quarter before you got off the screen, you got to keep your score.
You came back. Yeah.
And then what we didn't, so that increased earnings. What we didn't count on is the fact that other players would go, Chris is naked, eat him. So he's got to dig for that quarter even faster. So basically, though, we maxed out that hardware way back beyond what anybody thought it could do, right? So all that happened at the end of 768 levels was the monsters would turn to you and go, "Arg." That was good. And within weeks after releasing it, the hardcore players, remembering this is in an arcade that opens at 10 in the morning and closes at 10 at night, they were finishing the game in one day because other people could buy in.
Oh my God.
That's wild.
When the word got out that nothing happens at the end, we got a lot of crap for that over the years. So that's why at Rampage World Tour, we're up on the moon. She's falling into the astronaut's cleavage. We went crazy with the second one.
Yeah.
We got a lot of grief for not doing anything at the end of Rampage.
Rampage World Tour was awesome too. I mean, I played that quite a bit growing up, and I think that game had so much comedy in it. Like I feel like I was laughing at that, all the different goofy stuff, the vomit, it's like simple, pure crass comedy in the best possible way.
I'm a simple man. I need a simple
I had so
game.
much fun with that. And I remember having the PlayStation version and like having a friend come over and you know, playing multiplayer and stuff. And I really liked how you could jump up and down on like the girders of the building and they would collapse. That was like so satisfying because you're used to, you know, OG Rampage, you got to punch all the different windows.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this one, you're like, oh, I could just do like one big demolition. Yeah, the World Tour was
and
awesome.
now the first Rampage, like I said, was 3 guys. That was a team of about 16 people. That was like 8 artists and seven programmers and a couple different, you know, sound music guys. So I mean, and that a lot of that came from everybody. I mean, everybody's bringing their little bit in. Everybody's excited about doing it. And we had a ball. We put in so much secret stuff in there. I mean, you could go to hell and eat Hitler. You could find you could
Dude,
go
what?
to,
I have never seen that.
Indiana Jones. You know, you can find the warehouse where he stores the Lost Ark. You know, that kind of stuff. Oh, we put in a ton of hidden stuff in that.
Oh, that's
and then
awesome.
the big ending too, because you know we couldn't do any of that in the first one, and we had the talent.
Oh wow!
And talented people working with us, so we could do it all. So we had a ball with World Tour.
Oh, amazing game.
That was
So
the one
fun,
with Ruby, right? Like the snail.
That was Rampage 2.
Oh,
yeah,
Rampage
that
2.
came out,
Okay.
It had nothing to
Yeah.
do with anything except the 2 arcade games.
Right.
Yeah, So after World Tour, there
I
was
was asked
there was
to
a
do a
different
third
company.
one, and we came up with a really ambitious multiplayer game in which they started back on Earth the size of hamsters, and they had to break out and eat and get bigger, as big as Godzilla.
Oh.
And Midway at that time said, "No, we just want you to add another character." And being the clever businessman that I am, I said, we've done that twice already. You can find somebody else to do that. Come back to me when you're ready to do it right.
Right, when you want to really make a worthwhile sequel.
Otherwise, because I should have stayed with the franchise, but they never came back. So,
No.
They're like, we're really into these worms, you know.
Yeah.
Although I hope they do a sequel with the movie, because he did carry that rat out at the end.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And the rat was a reference to Larry the Rat from the from the Atari Lynx.
Right.
It was like the first new character that we ever got.
Right.
It was the Rampage on the Lynx had Larry the Rat. He was Larry the Lab Rat. And in the movie, the fact that they included him, I was like beside myself. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. That's
So even though
cool.
it wasn't mine, I'd love to see it.
For sure. Speaking of movie stuff, so there's something that like I feel like I want to hear your thoughts on, which is, you know, we talked about the Rampage movie, but another really big, you know, blockbuster movie that happened was Wreck-It Ralph, and that movie. There's no way that Fix-It Felix's game is not a reference to like what if reverse Rampage, right? Like he's fixing the building as Ralph's smashing it and all that stuff. So what was I don't know. I mean, your candid reaction when you saw that, was there anything where like Disney approached you and was like, "Hey, we're going to do this?" Or was it just it's fair game?
No one approached us. Well, I had about 40 employees at that time. We all went to the premiere here in Chicago. And we were, I mean, again, no one ever says it in the media. Nobody says exactly what you concisely phrased there. The whole thing was a flipped over Rampage, even though they mentioned a lot of real classic games in that movie.
Q-Bert
They
and whatnot.
couldn't
Beer
mention
Tapper.
Rampage because obviously the game was just a twist on Rampage.
Yeah.
And so we all went to see it. I liked it. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
And just as a side trivia note, one of my newest animators on Rampage World Tour was a young animator out of Indiana, came over, did all the little people in the game, everything. Really great animator, really great artist. His first job was doing every one of the little people, the priests that get hit by lightning in Rampage World Tour. He doesn't work for me anymore. He's an animation director at Pixar now. So
wow.
Go around, cover, whatever.
Dude,
so,
the DNA is there, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
How cool is that?
Amazing. That's super cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me it definitely seemed like, in this movie celebrating all these classic arcade games, the way that they're celebrating Rampage
Yeah.
was by making it the core thing that this character is from. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a wink and a nod, and it's just like a very cool moment, I think. But yeah,
It was a
it's
moment I appreciated, even though, yeah, it would have
yeah.
been nice for them to call me. But, what are
Sure,
you going to do?
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
But
it is nice.
That
yeah.
is one of the hottest games at the Galloping Ghost too. There's always like a line to get to the Fix It Felix, and they do the records up there, and you get your name on it, and there's like a little placard card that they have. That is always like mobbed.
Yeah,
oh, that's cool.
Would Rampage 4 have been the monsters pasting buildings back together? If you were to just keep innovating, would that have happened ever?
Just using their sticky green vomit.
Right. Glue
As the
vomit,
glue.
whatever. For sure.
So we got to talk about the Kickstarter before we get out of here. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, let's do that, please.
So yeah, so you got General Chaos Major SNAFU currently on pre-launch on Kickstarter. Tell us all about it, Brian, please.
All right. Well,
go in circles if you must. As many circles as you need.
Right after we did General Chaos, EA wanted us to do a sequel, and we started on it, and then they pulled us off it because right when arcades were ending, EA decided they want to enter the arcade business, and so they pulled us onto it. We did an arcade game for them, and before we were even finished, they were out of the business because they decided their first game was going to be Madden Football, which everybody in the country already owned. So they started the EA division, they closed it. So about 20 years later, we were working. I decided the time was right. We could do General Chaos, a sequel where all of the things we couldn't do in the Sega Genesis game, we can do now. So we put it together. My team started working on it, creating stuff. It was going to be really incredible. I announced to the world that we were doing that. We started a Kickstarter. I went out to the indoor kids, Kamal and his girlfriend, who was actually his wife at the time, but to promote it. And I'm getting on the airplane, and I find out I have cancer.
No.
So the multi-tour promotional thing that my social media guy at the time, that fell apart. We didn't do anything. The Kickstarter didn't go anywhere. I recovered. The company recovered. It was a tough few years, but then, all right, we've got this going on. We've got this going on. We got money coming back in again. I got a good team again. It's time. So I announced to the few thousand Chaos fans that were disappointed the Kickstarter didn't work. I sent out the memo and announced to the world, we're doing Major SNAFU, the sequel. Woo! I sent that out St. Patrick's Day, the week before COVID.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
So this time we made no announcements. We just started on it a couple of years ago. The only trouble is we've been working remotely, which is not the way to make a game. I mean, you want the people around you looking over their shoulders saying, what do you think of this? The synchronicity, the serendipity, whatever you want to call it. You need that team in one spot. And it's been self-funded. Most of my clients have always been, they're my clients, they're manufacturers, they're publishers. General Chaos 2 has been self-funded for the last couple of years, well, all this time. And I'm retired. I'm in Social Security now. So, and I've got 2 grandkids that moved into town, which makes it a lot harder to work at home when the little guys are looking up at you going, Grandpa, will you play with me?
So, I can't say no.
And because I'm in my 70th year, and because I've got a good team now that would love to all be in the same place, we're doing a Kickstarter to get an office space, bring all the part-time in full-time, finish this game in 20 or 30 weeks. The pre-launch is up now. We'll probably launch end of January. I still got to get the word out a lot better than I did the first time around, but it's coming. I've got go to actually, you can go to the Kickstarter pre-launch. You can go to the official General Chaos fan page on Facebook or Game Refuge on Facebook. You can go to my Brian F. Colin on Facebook. You'll see stuff there, or Instagram. We're going to be it's going to be a Steam game first, a PC game. It'll be keyboard, mouse, or Xbox style controller.
Okay.
It's going to be a Steam thing's coming up here in a couple of days. We'll be posting where to go look at stuff there. We're getting a Discord channel up in a couple of days.
Wow, nice.
Get the fans to get involved with the game design team during these last few months. And what else? I'm out of breath.
What about
enough.
perks?
Huh?
When after you get your breath, what about some perks for the Kickstarter? Is there an opportunity to be animated in the game?
Ooh, now animated has not been discussed. We've talked about naming regions after you. We've talked about putting your face on billboards or making you store owners or that kind of stuff. We've talked about a lot of silly stuff that I don't even know what we're going to do yet. Some things are going to be beautiful 3D statues. Have I got one here? Hold on. Oh, this is radio. I can't show you the picture.
You can show us though.
Statues.
We can tell them the picture was cool.
We can post a picture.
Okay. Well, I'll send you the pictures. Beautiful 3D statues that were going to be designed by James Sokolic, great toy maker, artist, modeler. We're doing, well, best of all, at a top contribution rate, you can get an arcade game made by Galloping Ghost Productions.
Oh, wonderful.
Crap. Wow.
Doc just agreed to it on live last night.
No
We've
way.
been talking about it for years, though, but a 2-screen multiplayer cocktail that it's a really cool design.
Oh, a cocktail
We came up with
style. Wow.
years. And then you're on either side. It looks like the Kid in War games, right?
Yeah.
On either side there. That's going to be the General Chaos multiplayer version arcade game that Doc will do for what else? But that's not a contribution thing. That's just that is a contribution thing, but it's
Top tier, you said, yeah.
One of the
That's wicked.
What else? I'll sign posters for all my games. We've got smaller toy figures of General Chaos and the main assault team that we created. Yeah, there's a bunch of there's a bunch of fun, silly stuff, but I never thought about putting your face on a character.
I'm looking
at your face, even though this is radio, and I can't see that happening.
It's one of those things you put
really
something up
big
there.
Contribution.
Yeah, it could be a couple grand or something like that. You might catch one person. It's one of those things. Just like people spend that for random walk-on roles for film shorts and stuff like that.
If you can screen them in pain, I can make you one of the dozen new characters getting hit, getting killed, dying,
being
and
fodder.
Put your name in the credits as a voice actor.
We could be Wilhelm.
You guys are doing this with your voices. I mean, because I don't see you lifting anything.
Oh man, we're just getting burned.
I'm sorry.
Ruthless.
That makes me want to punch a building real hard.
No, see, that's the dark. That's that dark comedy. That's that dark comedy.
Oh man,
love it.
Sharp.
You're a riot.
Sharp. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Well,
the Kickstarter
yeah.
is going to be really cool. I just, I signed up for the pre-registration and
Yep.
everything, and we'll promote that and stuff on our Facebook too.
Absolutely.
Let
What about
all the people know.
a guy who wants to be let's see, how can I phrase this? Since you signed up for pre-notification, there is a guy who has offered to give away game console systems to anybody that helps share the word by republishing a post he's going to put out in a few days or weeks.
Okay.
And it's sponsored by a retail game company. And he's going to put that post out. And then once he puts it out, I'll put it out on the General Chaos page.
Awesome.
And you 8-bit, you get there and make sure you
better believe
share
it.
that,
I'll
that way you
repost
can
the
win.
hell out of that. That's
Yeah,
a win-win. I get to promote
Yeah,
your
yeah.
Kickstarter.
Yeah,
I might win a thing. Can't go wrong with
absolutely.
that.
I'm just excited to
Wrong with
play
that.
this, you know.
And and
was very
guys,
fun.
of course, we'll have the if you're listening to this, just click into the show notes, and the link is right there. So you got to go check it out and sign up for the pre-launch, and you'll get all the information as it's released in the coming weeks. Because I think, Brian, what you told me before we started is that the launch date is not 100% set, but you're hoping for end of January. Is that right?
About then. Like, I don't understand. I'm a pretty good game designer. I don't understand. I'm 70 in my 70th year. I don't understand social media. I don't. So, and I was immediately trying to say, hey, let's get this out there right away. And and everybody I've talked to is like, no, you need a couple of months of building the word before you actually launch.
Yeah, the problem is with everything is that, it's kind of like a drop in the bucket of information, and it's so hard to get information to stick unless you have a lot of time to keep reposting things, because you're just hoping that someone will catch onto it on the, you might post something 35 times and they only saw it on that 35th time that you posted it. So it's it's just such a challenge. But yeah,
I'm starting to take advice from people that know a lot more than me. And so I originally thought, okay, we'll get this going, beginning of January, but it's looking like it's going to be the end of January before, and that even might slide. We'll see. We'll see what the numbers look like here in a couple weeks after Christmas. See what that. But the launch has got to be early in the year, because I want to have it done by summer. I want to have this thing done by summer.
Then you can hit the circuit. The console.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I enjoyed it. I didn't know anybody remembered my games except the kids in my neighborhood, because they played them in my basement until Doc Mack at the Galloping Ghost several years back said, no, Brian, you got to start going to events. And then when I'm seeing grandfathers playing with their daughter and his grandson, and his daughter's holding the baby in her hand, the three of them playing Rampage side by side,
that's like the best.
Wow. People remember. I had no idea.
Nothing cool.
I had no idea. It feels so good, man. It feels so good.
It's awesome.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's been really cool talking to you, Brian, and
it really has.
I just want to really thank you for coming on the show. You are literally a perfect guest for this show, and I'm just so happy that this all worked out, and certainly wish you the absolute best on this Kickstarter. Very, very cool. I think being able to play the original General Chaos with a mouse would be amazing. Really can't wait for this. Really, really cool stuff. So, guys, if you had fun listening to this episode and you're into these games we're talking about that Brian created over the years, please do go down into the show notes, check out General Chaos Major SNAFU on Kickstarter, sign up for that pre-launch. It's real easy. Just press the black button, notify me on launch. You put in your email address, you're all set, and you're going to get all the information as it comes out. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. Did either of you guys have any questions before we get out of here?
Man.
This has been a lot of fun. I don't know if you have any more questions, but I've had a ball. You guys ask great stuff.
Thanks
man. Thanks,
no,
man.
That means a lot, Brian. We love when we're able to talk to folks and make it a fun time for them, and that's all we can hope for, is that you had a good time, because we had a great time. I mean, I don't have any other questions. This is the main project you have waiting in the wings, right? There's not like some other. You said you used to always be working on 3 things at once, so there's not like something else we should maybe know about.
Well, I am doing a comic book game board game publisher here in Chicago. I just met a few weeks ago, or I just showed him a few weeks ago a game I designed, a tabletop card game, exploration rescue game that he fell in love with, and I created about.
Wow!
If you understand my card, because I also did the cabinet art for a lot of the games, as well as the screen art and animation. If you like my art style, it's got 275 cards in it, and it's currently being play tested, and it's doing off the charts, and that's going to be coming out next year too.
Wow!
And what is that called?
It's called Portals of Peril.
Wow.
Awesome.
It is. It's ridiculous and full of horrible puns, and
So it's
nothing you've ever
Reductopus, is what you're
seen
saying.
in a game like this ever. It's doing very well place testing, and it is going to be. It's going to be. You'll be hearing more about it.
Awesome.
That's like a Piers Anthony book. Yeah.
Portals of Peril, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
Piers Anthony, yes.
I guess I just had one.
Do I get more than 2 plugs?
Yeah, plug whatever.
Away.
Yeah.
I got nothing else.
We'll get at least another listen.
All right.
I do have one other question, if Steve, unless you have one.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Okay. What do you want me to confess to now? I'm already in trouble.
No. This shouldn't cause you any legal trouble. So you were saying that when you initially started at Bally Midway, your full expectation was that they were hiring you as an artist to work on doing art for back glasses for pinball. Did any piece of art you've ever done make it into a Bally Midway pinball machine ever?
Interesting question. I thought that they didn't. I mean, when I went in there, I knew what I was applying for by the time I got there. But yes and no. I did you can see this. No one else can.
Santosaurus
I did the
Rex.
Santosaurus Rex for a pinball designer named he did Strange Science. He did I'm blanking on everything.
Hold on, I'm doing some rapid Googling.
Langlois, Dan Langlois. Dan Langlois?
Oh, yeah, Dan Langlois.
Dan
Yep.
I did, for Strange Science, I did a 6-page comic book.
What?
When they release the games at trade shows, they give away stuff. I did a 6-page comic book, the storyline based on the game Strange Science. So that's all I've ever had to do with the pinball side.
That's awesome, though. That's like the best possible answer you could have had. So, Parasite Steve and I, most years we try to make it to a pinball expo, and getting to play like the classic Bally Midway games is always a highlight because it's super hard to find them, and so you have to rely on collectors that are bringing their personal pieces.
Right.
But if I find a Strange Science pinball machine out there, I'm gonna be like, hey, Brian Colin did the comic for this, and I'm just gonna have that up rattling in my brain. So that's pretty awesome.
There you go.
Awesome.
Appreciate that.
Guys, thank you so much.
That's way better than my question.
What question? You didn't ask a question.
Wink. We never heard from you. I wish
it got stricken from the record.
Yeah.
My grandchildren are upstairs asking me to come up and say goodnight.
Okay. I will. You can get out of here, and I will wrap things up internally, and do the outro. But thank you so much, Brian. Thank you. Again.
Thanks a bunch.
Thanks so much. It's been a joy. Guys. Thank you.
Pleasure to see you again.
All right. Have a good night.
Absolute blast. Yeah. Have a great one.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. That officially wraps it up. If you haven't jumped ship by now, we certainly hope you've enjoyed this week's journey over the treacherous waters of all the things that made growing up awesome. If you like what you've heard, please hit up our popular Facebook group and subscribe to the show on your podcast app of choice. You can also find us on Good Pods, where you can like episodes, leave reviews, and give us a much appreciated feedback. As if you didn't know, Retro Reductibus is a full-fledged member of the Dorkening Podcast Network. So, if you get a chance, please check out our sister shows like Epic Tales from the Sewers with Justin Cooper, Splash Pages, Throwdown Thursday with Patsy and Ashes, Hooked on Movies, The Horror Squad, The Wicked Horror Show, Still Token With, and many, many more. For more information on those shows or our show, or to subscribe to us or any of them, just check out thedorkening.com, and be sure to check out our killer sponsors, Deadly Grounds Coffee to die for. I have been your host. My name is Parasite Steve, and I'm going to go rampage a little bit around the town in my birthday suit while you guys just are left with that image. All right. Good night.